The risk of a elder U.S. briefcase to get of Russki rocket technology how Washington believes are in violation of an essential common Cold War weapon monitoring contract looks set to reason further tensions in Moscow, fair front of a meet of NATO defense ministers how opening in Brussels on environment. The U.S. envoy to NATO, K. Bailey Hutchison, was talk front of how meet and driven up one day once again Washington's competition how Russia is in violation of the Interim Range Nuke Forces, Infinity, Treaty of 1987. The contract prohibited an entire class of arms, land-launched middle-range rocket technology, able of remarkable targets at distances among 500 and 500 km, 310 to 3,100 miles. Currently, the Americans urge, in spite Russki denials, how Moscow has a new middle-range rocket in its stock taking, the Novator 9 METER 729, named to NATO as the SSC-8. The would allow Russia to start a nuke hit at NATO countries at really brief note. Envoy Hutchison told the U.S. wants to discover a tactful decision to the issue. But she emerging to specify how the U.S. might believe war activity if Russia's growth of the framework extended. At how spot we would be looking at the ability to get out a Russki rocket how could hit any of our countries, she told. Addition resist measures by the U.S. would be to get out the rocket technology how are in growth by Russia in infringement of the contract. They are on note. At first view, this seems to be a quite rough precautionary of CEO Donald Trump cards NATO envoy. But it is not precisely precise which she is proverb. Is she menacing a before-emptive hit out of the dark blue? Certainly no. Is she precautionary how if the Russki growth of these arms goes front later the US will discover system to goal them in the occasion of a meltdown? Really, some US expert include occasionally offered how a more than potential US answer might be to cast above the INF contract himself and expand a such class of gun. How would be really bad news story for weapon monitoring. Behind in the common Cold Warfare, the U.S. was worried at the later Soviet Association's deploy of the Ship 20 framework. Several of Washington's allies coordinated to get U.S. Pershing and flight rocket technology in answer. The go induced common protests and enormous policy tensions. The resultant INF contract swept the entire class of gun off and considerably diminished tensions. But currently, one day once again, the INF contract is behind in the news story. Russia has told slight on its new rocket some rather than to reject how it is in violation of the treaty. It has not responded any of the NATO countries' concerns. Really, in his before ministerial clique meeting, NATO Secretariat General Jens Stoltenberg marked how this largest believable evaluation would be how Russia is in infringement of the contract. It is thus immediate, he went on, how Russia addresses these concerns in a significant and translucent way. He as well added how, on to U.S. intellect, Russia had begun to expand the new rocket. Precisely which the Americans aware is yet not precise. For a length period expert were not though specific that particular rocket was creature talked on. Is the fair and stretched band release of the Iskander-M, an current Russki gun? Or could it be a new option of the ocean-launched Kalibr Earth assault rocket how has been utilized by the Russki Navy versus targets in Syria? Everything the detailed information, the U.S. insists the Russians are in violation of the INF treaty. How matters? Envoy Hutchison may include speak a slight freely. Russia's Overseas Sphere Ministry representative, Maria Zakharova, told, it seems how human beings who do such a statements do not understand the standard of their liability and the risk of violent rhetorical. But if the deploy of the gun continues, later the U.S. could so do several counterpart go in answer. The question is connected to be top on the order of business while NATO defense ministers encounter in Brussels.